Beruchim haboim, welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ez Hashem together on Daf Yud Aleph, Amud Aleph, the new Mishnah. Our Mishnah discusses Birkos Kriya Shema. There are 7 brachos in total, and those 7 brachos correspond to the pasuk in Tehillim. Sheva Bayom Hilal Ticha. 7 blessings during the day I will praise you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Says the Mishnah to explain. B'shachar mevarech shtayim lefaneo. In the morning we make 2 brachos before the Kriya Shema and 1 bracha afterwards. The 2 brachos before, the first one begins Yotzer Or Uvarei Choshech. The second bracha begins Ahavo Rabba. The bracha after the Kriya Shema in the morning begins Emes V'Yatziv. Says the Mishnah to continue to explain Uba'erev mevarech shtayim lefaneo v'shtayim le'achareho. And in the evening at night, when we say Kriya Shema, we have 2 brachos that precede the Kriya Shema and 2 brachos that are after the Kriya Shema. The first bracha that precedes is the bracha Asher Bidvoroi Ma'ariv Arovim. The second bracha begins Ahavas Olam. The 2 brachos after the Kriya Shema at night, the first one is a long bracha, Emes Ve'emuna, and the next one is a shorter bracha called Hashkivenu. Says the Mishnah, Achas Aruko Ve'achas Kitzoro. These latter brachas that we just mentioned, the long bracha of Emes Ve'emuna, and the short bracha of Hashkivenu. Makom she'amru laha'arich, eino rashoy lekatzer. If it's a place where you're supposed to be marich, the bracha requires to be lengthened, to be a lengthy bracha, you cannot then mekatzer and shorten it. Vice versa also, lekatzer eino rashoy laha'arich. If it's a short bracha, you can't lengthen it. Lachtoim eino rashoy shelo lachtoim. If it's a bracha that requires a chasima, baruch ato Hashem, you can't not have the chasima. And vice versa, shaloi lachtom, if it's a bracha that is short bracha, does not require a chasima, ein rashoy lachtom, you're not allowed to then add a chasima, baruch ato Hashem. Says the Gemara right away with a question, my mevarech, what are the 2 brachas that we say before the Kriya Shema in the morning? Omer Rabbi Yaakov, Omer Rabbi Yoshaya. The first one is Yotzer Or Uvorei Choshech. Ask the Gemara, Lema Yotzer Or Uvorei Noiga. Why not say a better expression, a cleaner expression of Yotzer Or Uvorei Noiga instead of Choshech? Answers the Gemara, Kedichsiv Ka'amrinon. The way that it is written, that's the way we're going to say it. We say that based on the pasuk itself, the verse says Yotzer Or Uvorei Choshech. So we also then put that in our bracha. Elameato, ask the Gemara, Oise Shom Uvorei Ra. Then you should also say Oise Shom Vorei Ra. Ki Ka'amrinon Kedichsiv. If we're going to say it like that, it is written, then that's how it is written. Elo Ksivra V'Karin Hakol. And yet we say Hakol instead of the word Hara. We say Yotzer Or Vorei Choshech, Oise Shom Oreis Hakol instead of Oreis Hara. Answers the Gemara, Lishnam Alya. We want to make a better, a cleaner expression and not mention Ra. So Totu, there's the Gemara, Hochanami, over here as well then. Lema Noiga, Lishnam Alya. So let's say Noga instead of Choshech, instead of darkness, which is a better, cleaner expression. Answers the Gemara, Ela Omar Rav, Kidei Lahazkir Midos Yoim Balayla, Umidos Laila Bayom. We want to then emphasize the midah of Laila Bayom and the midah Yom Balayla, and therefore we use the expression Choshech, darkness, in contrast to the light during the day. Why do we do that? We do that because we are afraid that a person will read the verse and say the pasuk and say the bracha Yotzer Or Uvorei Choshech, which implies there's a Yotzer Or and there's something else called a Borei Choshech. Dahainu, there's Shtei Rishuyos Chas v'Sholom. And therefore we emphasize, no, the same Borei, the Borei Hakol, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's Yotzer Or Uvorei Choshech. So the Gemara asks, Bishlama midas laila bayoim kedamrin, like we just said. We mentioned choshech in the bracha in the morning, Yotzer Or Uvorei Choshech. But asks the Gemara, Yotzer Or Uvorei Choshech ela midas yom v'laila heichi mishkachas lo. How do we find, where do we see that there's a midas yom v'laila at night? Answers the Gemara, Amar Abaye golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or. We say that golel or, we add or at night to then emphasize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one who then creates the or and the choshech. V'idach mai. Now the Gemara asks the second bracha before the Kriya Shema shel Shacharis. Maihi, what is that? Omar Rabbi Yehuda, Omar Shmuel, Ahavo Rabba. He says it begins with Ahavo Rabba. V'chein Ori le Rabbi Elazar le Rabbi Pedas Berei, his son Pedas, Ahavo Rabba. He also taught that is the nusach of the bracha. Tanya Nami Hochi, and we have a brisa to support this. Ein oimim avas oilam ela ahava rabba. We don't say avas oilam, rather we begin the bracha with ahava rabba. V'rabbanan amrei avas oilam. V'chein hu oimer ve'ahavta avas oilam ahavtich al kein mishachtich chesed. A great love, a forevering love rather. I will love you, and therefore I have extended chesed upon you. Which means that even after the Churban Beis HaMikdash, there's an Avas Oilam HaKadosh Baruch Hu has for Klal Yisrael. Rabbi Yehuda Mar Shmuel, Hashkem lishnois ad sheloi kara kriya shema. Now if a person is going to learn before saying Kriya Shema and the brachos of Kriya Shema, so he makes a Birkas HaTorah. Tzarich levarich. But what happens if a person is going to then say Birkas HaKriya Shema and Kriya Shema, and then he's going to learn? Meshekara Kriya Shema. If he first says Kriya Shema, Ein Sar Levarich, he doesn't have to say Birkas HaTorah. Shekvar Niftar Bi'ahavo Rabba, because he's already included in the bracha of Ahava Rabba, as there's a bakasha v'sein B'libeinu Lohavin Ulahaskil Lilmoid Ulalame Lishmor V'lasois Lekayim as Kol Divrei Salmut Harasecha Bi'ahavo. Now this is so, by the way, when a person is going to learn immediately after the davening. But if he's not going to learn immediately after the davening, so it's not nikar, it's not then made clear that the bracha of Ahava Rabba that he said is going to go towards the Birkas HaTorah. And therefore, unlike Birkas HaTorah, where if a person makes a bracha on the Torah and he doesn't learn right away, so the Mefarshim explain, so that's okay. That means to say that the bracha on the Torah is going to be satisfactory for the entire day, including the night, even if it has interruptions, because there's a mitzvah upon him all day long and at night to learn. And therefore, the bracha of Birkas HaTorah goes towards that. But again, over here, since the bracha of Ahava Rabba is not specifically a Birkas HaTorah, only can be used as a Birkas HaTorah, therefore, if you're going to use it as a Birkas HaTorah, you must then learn immediately after the davening. Omer Rav Huna. Now the Gemara discusses Birkas HaTorah. On what Torah learning do you say a bracha of Birkas HaTorah on? Omer Rav Huna lemikra tzarich levarich. Mikra, which is the Torah shebichsav, that you need to make a bracha on. Ulemedrash ein tzarich levarich. However, the medrash which expounds the psukim in the Torah, that you would not have to say a bracha on it. Rabbi Elazar amar lemikra ulemedrash tzarich levarich. Ulemishna ein tzarich levarich. You would need to make a bracha both on the mikra and as well as the medrash, which is expounding on the verses themselves. But on Torah sheba'al peh, on the Mishnah, you would not need to make a bracha. Rabbi Yochanan amar af lemishnah nami tzarich levarich. Aval letalmud ein tzarich levarich. The Mishnah, that aspect of Torah sheba'al peh, you would need to make a bracha, Birkas HaTorah on. But the Talmud, which is already a Perush on the Perush, that you would not have to make a bracha on. Although the Talmud itself is also a Perush on Torah shebichsav, but it's more removed. And therefore, you would not need to make a bracha on that. V'rov amar af letalmud tzarich lachzor levarich. Even on the Talmud, one needs to make a bracha Birkas HaTorah, because that also is necessary to explain the Torah itself. And therefore, both the Torah sheba'al peh and the Torah shebichsav is necessary to have the Talmud to explain it. And therefore that requires a bracha as well. There are many times that I came before Rav, Lisnuye Pirkin Besifra the Beirav, in order to then learn the Medrash of Torah's Kohanim. And that Medrash of Torah's Kohanim is on the Sefer Vayikra. And what happened? Havemaktim v'komashiye yadei ubarich umasni labirkin. And he would first wash his hands, then make a bracha, birkas haTorah, and then teach us this medrash. So we see from here that medrash also requires birkas haTorah. Now the Gemara wants to know, what is the nusach of the bracha birkas haTorah that we say? Says the Gemara, "My mevarech, what bracha do we make?" Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. We make a birkas hamitzvah. Asher kidishonu b'mitzvah isavet tzivanu la'asoik b'divrei Torah, to engage in the words of Torah. Just like an asek, a person is involved in his business, a Jew's business, and to be oisek in Torah, and therefore the bracha in this nusach is la'asoik b'divrei Torah. Rabbi Yochanan Mesayim Bohachi. Rabbi Yochanan concludes with the following. Now there's a discussion if it's a separate bracha or if it's a continuation of the first bracha. But the bracha goes as follows. Ha'arev no Hashem Elokeinu as divrei sarasecha befinu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, make it sweet in our mouths, and the words of your Torah in our mouths, ubefiyos amcha beis Yisrael, and in the mouths of your people, Klal Yisrael. V'niyanachnu v'tzetzoeinu v'tzetzoe amcha beis Yisrael klon yodei shemecha. And may we and our offspring and our offspring's offspring, all of Klal Yisrael, know your name. V'oiskei soresecha baruch ato Hashem hamalamed Torah la'amo Yisrael. Says the Gemara, there's an additional bracha. V'Rav Huamnuna amar asher bochar bonu mikol ha'amim, a special shvach. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you chose us from all of the nations. V'nosan lonu es Torah, and you gave us your Torah. Baruch atah Hashem noisin haTorah. Avraham nuna zuhi me'ula shebebrachos. This is the choicest of all brachos. Why? Because it has a shvach to Klal Yisrael, asher bochar banu mikol ha'amim. It has a shvach to the Torah, asher nosan lonu es Torah, and has a shvach to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch atah Hashem noisin haTorah. The Gemara concludes, Hilkach lememrinhu lekulu, we must say all three brachos when we say birkas haTorah. The Gemara now discusses when the Kohanim did their early avodah, and they went to the Lishkas Hagozis. So the Sgan HaKohanim would say to them to make a bracha. Explains the Gemara, Tnan Hasam. It says in the Mishnah over there, the Mishnah in Talmud, Omar lehem ha-memuna, the Memuna, referring to the Sgan HaKohanim, he would say to the Kohanim, Baruchu bracha achas, make one bracha. Now, the Gemara is going to discuss which bracha are we talking about before the Kriya Shema. Is it the bracha of Yotzer Or is it the bracha of Ahava Rabbah? Veheim Berchu, and they, the Kohanim, made the bracha. V'karu, and then they would read Aseres Hadibros, Shma v'haya im shamor v'yomer, and then they would read Aseres Hadibros and the three parshios of Kriya Shema. Ubarches ha'am gimel brachos, and then he would say that they should make three brachos together with the am, and they would bless the following brachos. The first one being emes v'yatziv. The second being v'avoida. Avoida is a special bracha that the Kohanim would make, and the nusach of that bracha is as follows. Ritzei Hashem Elokeinu avodas amcho Yisrael v'isheisa usfilosom sekabel b'rotzoin. Baruch HaMekabel avodas amo Yisrael b'rotzoin. That's one nusach. Or alternatively, Sha'oischa levadcha b'yira na'avoid. You alone, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we have fear as we serve you. And a third bracha, ubirkas kohanim. Now on Shabbos, it goes on to say in the Mishnah, Mosifin brocha achas lemishmar hayotzei. The mishmar hayotzei would go out. There are 24 mishmaros of kohanim. Each one would take a week of avodah. So when that mishmar would go out on Shabbos, the new mishmar would come in. The new mishmar would receive a bracha from the mishmar hayotzei. So the Gemara will discuss on Yud Beis Amud Aleph what the nusach of that bracha will be. Now ask the Gemara, my bracha achas. What is that one bracha that the Sgan HaKohanim would say to the Kohanim to make a bracha on? Which of the two brachas before Kriya Shema? Says the Gemara, Ki hod Rabbi Abba Rabbi Yosi bar Abba, ikloi lahu asra, boi minayhu, my bracha achas. When they went to that place, they asked What is the bracha that the Sagan HaKohanim requires the Kohanim to say? What is the bracha he's referring to? Says the Gemara, Lo hava biyadayud. They didn't know an answer to that question. V'osu shailuhu l'Rav Masna lo hava biyadei. They went to ask Rav Masna, and he didn't know also the answer. Also shailuhu l'Rav Yehuda. They asked Rav Yehuda, Amar lahu, and he said to them, Hochi Omar Shmuel. This is what Shmuel said. Ahavo Rabbo. The bracha that the Sagan HaKohanim was telling him to make a bracha, that bracha was Ahavo Rabbo. V'amre Rabbi Zrika Amar Rabbi Ami Amar Rabbi Yoshim ben Lakish Yoitzer Or. No. He argues, he said, it's Yoitzer Or. That was the bracha of the two brachos that they were supposed to say. Ki also Rabbi Yitzchok bar Yosef Omar Chod Rabbi Zrika la befeirosh itmar ele mechlala itmar. When Rabbi Yitzchok bar Yosef said that Rabbi Zrika said he learned from Reish Lakish that the bracha of the two brachos that were said by the Kohanim was Yoitzer Or, he learned it as an inference from the words of Reish Lakish. The Amar Rabbi Zrika, Amar Rabbi Ami, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. What did he hear? What did he hear Rabbi Lakish say? He heard him say the following: Zois oimeres, brachos ein ma'akvois zu es zu. The brachos are not ma'akev one and the other, and he understood that to mean that if you say one bracha and not the other, the bracha that you do say, you're yotze with that bracha that you said, even though you did not say the second bracha. Iyam is bishlama yotze or havu amrei. If you will say that they said the one bracha was yotze or, then it's bishlama, it's very well. Because hainu de brachos ein ma'akva zu et zu, de lo kol amrei ahava rabba. Then we understand why the brachos are not ma'akev the other. Because when he said the bracha of Yotzer Or, even though it was certainly sufficient to say brachas Ava Rabba, the fact that he didn't say it means that he only said one bracha of Yotzer Or, and it's not ma'akev. So it's very good. You can explain it that way very well. Very well. Eli Amris Ava Rabba Havu Amr. But if you want to suggest that the one bracha that they said was Ahava Rabba, then you'll run into a problem as follows. Because if they said Ahava Rabba, why didn't they say also Yotzer Or? Because it was too early. And if it was too early, it doesn't mean that brachos are not ma'akev zu et zu. It just means that they're going to say Yotzer Or afterwards when it becomes the time to say Yotzer Or. Says the Gemara, my brachos ein ma'akev zu et zu. Dilma hai deloy amre Yotzer Or. Perhaps the reason why they did not say Yotzer Or is mishum deloy matazman Yotzer Or. Because the time did not yet come to say Yotzer Or. But v'chimat zman Yotzer Or havu amri. But when the time does come to say Yotzer Or, they would say it, and therefore the fact that Reish Lakish said the words that the brachos are not ma'akva zu et zu would not make any sense. Now ask the Gemara, v'i mechlala mai. What is the weakness in saying that it's an inference? It's mechlala. Says the Gemara, because di'i mechlala. Because if it's only an inference, you can say that really the one bracha that they said was Ahava Rabba. As follows, because they said Ahava Rabba, and then subsequently said Yotzer Or. And even though it's out of order, what he meant when he said that the brachos are not ma'akves zu et zu, means that you can say the brachos out of order and it's not ma'akev the other bracha. As follows. They would say Yotzer Or after they would say Ava Rabba. Umay brachos emak zu et zu. Say their brachos. It means they'll order the brachos. And therefore the fact there's an inference, that's a weakness because he didn't say it explicitly. Perhaps he meant to say this other explanation of ein brachos ma'akvas zu es zu.